on this computer. Okay, we're starting our recording. And I do want to admit a few more participants to the group. So good morning, Hilda again. Thank you for the tremendous response and joining me on COVID-19 Tough Decisions for Business Owners. This is a start of a series that I plan to do that will begin with today's session called Managing HR Decisions. So the intent of this was started by my team to help managers, HR professionals, and business owners to help you with some of the tough decisions you're making in managing the spread of COVID-19. We have planned sessions to be biweekly 30-minute sessions, Mondays at 11 and Wednesdays at 3 o'clock. You've got in front of you a poll. I would hope that you'll answer that because I'm going to shut it down shortly, but please look at the poll and complete this as I continue talking. So the way the format will work is we've allotted 30 minutes. The first 20 minutes will be focused on me doing a presentation, and the last 10 minutes will be focused on questions and answers. I would encourage you to use the chat box. You can put it in privately, or you can put the question to all. And it is anonymous if you do it as an individual. Sorry, people are coming in and I only have access to admit everybody. So we will change that to let people just come in as they do. So after the session, when we have the Q&A session, it will be 10 minutes long. And I would ask you to put your questions into the chat box. I have Diane and Jenny, and they will be monitoring the chat box. If you send your messages privately, send it to Jenny, and she will be the one that's asking me the questions as we go into the question answer period. Because some of you may have time and really want to spend a bit more time, we will extend the question answer period to 15 minutes and end at 11:45. So again, if you really want to be staying on, please do so, and I'd be happy to continue doing that. If I sound a little bit hesitant, I'm trying to multitask because I'm trying to admit people who are arriving onto the session, and we will fix that next time, and I will give control to others to do that for me. Okay, we've got 25 participants on right now, and this is really great. Afterwards, we will send you an email linking you to a YouTube on the webinar. We will have PDFs of the slide presentation. I offer an opportunity for you to chat with me one-on-one for a 30-minute free consultation. And we would like we're doing a survey. The survey is to see how we did today, as well as to identify some additional topics. If you're interested in joining me and have different topics, please do so. So I'm going to close the poll now, and I want to share the results. Oh, you can see the results. So actually 8 of you, people were a bit shy, so 8 of you responded. 13% it's business as usual, which is good. 13% have modified their business operations. Major business operation shifts, 25% of you. A reduction in staff, 13%. 38% have had temporary shutdowns as per the government directives. 25% of you are working from home. So that's really, really interesting information that's happening, and I think it echoes things around the country. So let me get started. I'm going to shut down and stop sharing this poll, but thank you for providing that information. So welcome to COVID-19 Tough Decisions for Business Owners, Managing HR Decisions. So we're finding ourselves in a situation that I believe has never happened to the extent in the world. It is a difficult and changing time for us. Every day, sometimes every hour, there's information that impacts on us as individuals, as families, as business owners. And we need to constantly be keeping up with things. But constant can be too much, and we'll kind of talk about that too as well. There's government legislations and decisions that impact you as business owners, entrepreneurs, and managers. I was speaking to someone today who just said one of the staff in our Alberta office has now come down with the flu, and they're apparently still in the office, and so she's now being tested. What does the impact mean for that business? Because all of those people were exposed to her during that period last week. So she needs to be tested. They need to be uh, going and getting tested and self-isolating. But as a practical business person, they're kind of thinking, do we have to do this? But think about that. So we're constantly be thinking about the decisions we have to make, and we need to respond to them sometimes immediately and without all the information. I love this little caption about Snoopy, and it says, my mind gets to wandering and I become troubled. Overthinking ruins you, ruins the situation, ruins the moment, twists things around, makes you worry, and generally just makes everything much more worse than it actually is. Oops. So this webinar series was started to answer a need, to help you as managers and business owners. And to my HR professionals, I've sent out the emails as well, because you are helping your managers and business owners. I told this particular business owner today, I said, you have an HR person. Talk to that HR person, get that HR person to do the homework of the facts so you can make the decisions. So here I am, I'm trying to provide you information, tips, and strategies to help you with the tough decisions that we must make. What I want to do, though, is I don't want to spend time talking about the details of legislation, because the legislation is about what's happening to you locally. And locally can even be in your own specific region, not necessarily your province, even in your town or city, because there are bylaws and there are changes. So I'm going to keep those conversations about legislation at a higher level, because I really want to focus on giving you tips and strategies to think about as you make your decisions. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am the founder and president of People Bright Consulting, and it is a full-service HR company that provides strategic HR advice. And I'm also the creator of a concept called Connect with RevUp. My husband and I created an engineering company before People Bright called iTrans Consulting. And I know some of you on the line are aware of the engineering firm that I speak of. We grew our company from 2 to 125 employees, 7 offices across Canada. And we wanted to make it special, and we wanted to make it different. And we became recognized as the best workplace in Canada, top 10 twice. So I'm very passionate about human resources. I'm very passionate about people. My expertise is healthcare, engineering, IT, and human resources. So what I want to do today is I want to cover some of the impacts of COVID-19 on the business, what's happening out there, a brief overview of some of the HR-related legal updates for you, the do's and don'ts of the tough decisions that you have to make. And I'm going to talk a bit about temporary layoffs, job protection, terminations, and temporary business closures. I'll ask you to think about how you make those decisions, and think about when you make a decision looking at short, mid, and long-term effects as you make that decision. I want to help you to be flexible about the constant change. Put that in its perspective, because businesses and employees are adapting and coping. And in some ways that's a stressor, but some ways it's positive. And I want to kind of put the balance into that. And the last thing I want to do is give you tips and strategies to manage the decision making that you're going through. So how can businesses survive? Wow. I mean, I cannot believe what a difference 10 days makes to our country. And over the last month and a half, we have been listening from China, from Hong Kong, from Italy, as the virus continued to spread. And then 10 days ago, everything seemed to turn around and Canada became in a state of flux, and 9 out of 10 provinces calling a state of emergency. Students are out of school, not just for 1 week, they should have been back to school now, but they're now out for 2 or more weeks, and talks of maybe this is the end of work, of going to school until September as we know it. Businesses and employees have had to think about job protected leaves, about working from home, about layoffs, about Workshare, a concept some of you may know of, but I want to introduce today, and shutdowns or modified operations. As I said, 9 provinces, except for Nova Scotia, have declared a state of emergency. 48 states last week declared social distancing as a requirement. Essential services only, we were told in Ontario within 2 days of announcing changes that restaurants, bars, recreational centers, libraries, etc. were all required to close, and social gatherings of 50 or more people are banned until March 30th. So how will you survive? You know, companies are shutting down, many of them where they thought that they needed to have closed for the 2 weeks. And employees are working from home, they're being laid off, and people are considering terminations and exploring the Workshare program. So I wanted to share a little bit about the legal updates. As I said, I only have 20 minutes with you, and I really want to focus on the how-tos, not the details. So I've got some links here, as you can see, for Ontario, British Columbia, Nova Scotia, and Quebec. And I have a link here for the Economic Response Plan for Canada. So right now, no more travel. There's a level 3 travel advisory for non-essential travel outside of Canada. There's self-isolation for 14 days when you come back. And last week, the Prime Minister said, it's time for Canadians to come home. When he said that, I felt so touched because of the way he said it. It made me remember that I'm a Canadian, I'm proud to be a Canadian, and it's time for us to all be home and fight to contain COVID-19. I know that in Ontario, the government had indicated that they shut down various places, and so a lot of companies created temporary layoffs, calling to cancel a dentist appointment. They understand why I would do that. So I'll talk a little bit about temporary layoffs and constructive dismissal, and I'll do that right now. What I mean is that if you are a company and in your employee agreement to your staff person, you wrote something about temporary layoffs, then you're fine to have the temporary layoffs. But a lot of companies probably don't have an agreement that includes a temporary layoff provision. When you do that or don't do that, then what can be construed when you lay off people is that you've effectively changed their work, and therefore it's termed in legal terms a constructive dismissal. So that's kind of interesting because people can say, well, you terminated me or you constructively terminated me. And what I think most people will say is that if somebody should do that to you, the courts may deem that that was a special kind of circumstance, and that moving this particular constructive dismissal may not be an ideal thing. So it's something to be aware of. And I think the key to that is, how do you work with your employees? How do you handle where you created a trusting relationship and where they know that this was through no fault of your own? They'll be reasonable, and likelihood of them even filing for constructive dismissal will not be there. The other thing is the job protected leaves. No loss of jobs due to COVID-19. And there is in the legislation things about how do you apply for EI, what is covered, what is not covered. If you're on a sick leave, what happens there? And the government's just waived the first week. So a lot of details that you can find about job protected leaves. But this is really important message for you. You cannot terminate anybody because they are on a job protected leave. What that means, job protected leave, is that you cannot be terminated due to COVID-19, and look up what the facts are regarding that. The other thing I want to share is safety. Safety is key. And in the occupational health and safety legislation, people have the right to refuse unsafe work. So right now, if somebody is working and they're afraid because of COVID-19 in the workplace situation, they have the right to say, I don't want to come to work. What I'm suggesting to you is that you need to follow this uh, according to the safety regulations. You need to take this seriously. Means you need to follow up, investigate, and not dismiss it and say, no, I order you to come back, because employees have the right to do that. The last thing is benefits. Emergency care benefits. There's an EI Workshare program, which has been in existence. And briefly, what Workshare is the ability to share with Employment Canada that opportunity. So you might want to put people on 3 days work where you pay them for 3, and for 2 days, the EI kicks in and pays them for the 2 days. It is a program, it has been in existence, and it can be utilized. The trick on this one is that there's a 30-day period, and you have to have opt-in by the staff. In other words, they sign this agreement. There's an application form. So if that works for you, look it up. Just a reminder, check out things. Banks are being more lenient. EDC has loans, so you can approach them, particularly if you're in the manufacturing business or do a lot of sales overseas, then you should be thinking about that. There is, under the Emergency Care Benefit Program, a 10% subsidy of remuneration. So they will help small businesses who qualify with a 10% subsidy. And the beauty of that is when you go to file for your taxes for your employees, that amount will be deducted. You can deduct, so it's right away money, but you do have to apply. The application, I believe, is not happening until April 1st, so do keep a lookout. And there is one other thing, that if you don't qualify for EI because you don't actually provide EI insurance, which means you as an employee, this would be important, you could apply for it, and there's a $90 biweekly benefit up to 4 weeks. So I did talk about job protected leave, so I won't go into that into detail now, but again, you cannot terminate somebody due to it. And these are the reasons that you need to understand. People on quarantine, people under medical investigation, people who are in contact with employees, or the employer has directed you not to work. These are some of the job protected leaves. So how do you manage the tough decisions? There are layoffs happening, and I want to share with you, some people will come to you because they're used to it. Part-time people, that they request an ROE, and that they will follow, if they follow the eligible criteria, they'll be applicable. There are benefits that you might consider, like if you have an benefit program, you might want to subsidize your employees. And if you have an EA program, that's Employees Assistance Program, already in place, remind people that they should use that. At all costs, really think about your relationship with your employee and preserve that relationship. That's being honest, that's creating trust, and communicating effectively. Other alternative solutions I shared with you is the Workshare program, getting people to use their vacation time, lieu time that they've had, any paid time off, use that emergency care program, and other government programs. So keep up to date with what's happening. The last thing is terminations. It's not your best option at this point. If you're thinking it's either survival of my company or terminations, yes, you'll have no choice. But if not, then try not to. That perception that you will create, and when your people come back, the effect on the work culture, that's going to be really not your best option. And again, looking up government support. When you make decisions, make them for the short term, for sure, but keep in mind what happens in the midterm and the long term. Anytime I had to make a significant decision, I always looked at the short, mid, and the long term. And with COVID-19, it's causing us to think and rethink and reinvent our businesses. So when you're thinking, what's it going to look like? If I make this decision today, what's it going to impact as we resume business? What's it going to look like 1 to 5 years? And you're trying to do that for your clients. You're trying to do that for your staff, your work culture. And it means a big difference. Somebody needs to mute because I hear a little bit. I know I'm coming up to 11:23 now. I've just got a couple more slides that I do want to share. So thinking of reinventing your business, what does the future look like? For those that are working remotely, then there's the use of technology. More of us are using Zoom and Skype, and for people who are trying to organize projects and talk to each other, Asana and Trello. And for people on iPhones, there's things like WhatsApp and Slack. People are using that, creating their teams and talking about that. This is an opportunity to change your work culture. And as I mentioned earlier, really an opportunity to build trusting relationships, having more open communication, and making the staff feel valued. I think the other thing that's interesting is as we're doing work remotely, I feel things have changed. For example, I feel that we're giving people permission. We know people are working from home. We're giving people permission to just be a little bit more relaxed. If your child walks in because they look like they're hungry and they say, Dad, people aren't upset that, oh, why are they doing that? They're working from home and this is not professional. We've now given ourselves permission to be a little bit different on how we do things. So practice that, be flexible, and support transformational change, because this is transformational. Your business didn't just change incrementally, it's changed significantly overnight. So we need to learn to be agile and comfortable with change, and we need to help those people that really aren't comfortable with change to feel a bit more comfortable. So leverage COVID-19 as a situation that will give you opportunities to change your workforce, to change the way you work. The last slide I want to talk about is how you respond to that immediate need. So you need to decide and respond, and sometimes you have to do that quickly. But my suggestion is get the facts, explore options, seek advice of others. You've got friends, you've got colleagues. If that means talking to somebody in accounting or payroll or HR or legal with expertise, go ask and then make that decision. It may not be the best decision, but it's better to do something. It doesn't have to be perfect. People will forgive you because we are in a time of uncertainty. Evaluate that impact as it goes. So if you need to change, do it. And relax, take a breath, take a big breath. I find for me, I cannot listen to the TV set all day long. I need to put it in perspective. So I gather my information, I gather my facts. I try not to listen to negative news. I try to find positive ways to manage my stress and listen to the funny anecdotes that people have about the situation we're in. Embrace change and try to see the positiveness in it. So I wanted to share with you, we do have upcoming webinars and sessions, but let's talk about the questions and answers that you have. The next session, by the way, is impact of remote work, so I'll dive in more deeply for that. And if you have any questions, can we share them now? Jenny?
So far, we don't have any questions. So if anyone is interested, they can put them in the chat group right now.
You guys are quiet. I know that's a lot. So let me tell you a little bit about the upcoming webinars. The next one is on the impact of remote work. As I highlighted, it has changed the way many of us who've been working from home have worked. But communication is important, and how you communicate with your team and how do you make sure productivity and workload are there. So if you're interested in that, on the On the Monday, March the 30th, I will be talking about effective communication and really diving into how you talk to your clients, how you talk with your staff, and make sure you build trust and endurance for the road ahead and to preserve the relationships or improve them, because sometimes they're already tense. The uh, EP4 will be on business survival. I think by then the government will have put into place a lot of their forms and applications. So really helping you as businesses figure out how you're going to survive. I sense that the relationships that the COVID-19 timeframes of returning to school, returning to business as usual will extend way beyond that. So I think it's targeted time. And then we're going to talk about effective leadership and a few other sessions along the way. Are there any questions? No?
Yeah, there is now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So first of all, to Christine, yes, we will be replaying. We will have a recording uploaded onto YouTube, which we will share with you in our post-webinar email. And then second of all, M. Fernandez has a question. Regards to Workshare, how does the EI portion work for employees who are at a higher base salary?
Workshare. Okay, so that is a program, and with that program, it will be, you would pay your staff for, say, the 3 days as the example I gave, and then in the EI, you would be paid EI for the 2 days. And the way EI works is it's approximately 55% of the salary up to a maximum per biweekly. And that maximum is the equivalent of about $59,000. So definitely if somebody's making $100,000, then they would not be getting the $100,000, right? They would be getting the equivalent of $100,000 for 3 days, but the remaining 2 days would be at the maximum top up. And EI is tricky because never advise somebody what they're going to get, because even though it's 55, it's dependent on the type of industry, the region that you're in. So there is no the people that know the formula essentially are the EI that are doing it. Any other questions? Before people leave, it is 11:30. We are going to send you an email, as Jenny said. There will be a link to YouTube of this recording. There will be a copy of the PDF of emails. We invite you all to a 30-minute one-on-one consultation with me, and we will be sharing a survey, because the survey will help us see how we did today, but also topics that you would be interested in, because as I said, we want to do this twice a week until we don't need to do it. So any last questions? But I thank those that need to go, and if there are any more questions, I'm happy to entertain them now.
Yes, there's another question about where we can access the calculator to understand this a bit better, as we have not been able to find an online resource.
Is that in response to Workshare?
Yes, to Workshare.
So there is a thing, if you do a lookup in the Canadian Services on Workshare program, there will be information on Workshare program. As far as EI benefits are, if you actually go into the EI website, Diane, can you if that person will send their email, we can certainly give them the links. But if you go into the Services Canada link, you would then look up EI benefits, and then they actually have a calculator that kind of gives you a ballpark range. So I hope that answers that question. But the difficulty with the Workshare is you have to apply, so you should look for that application. And then the application also includes that everybody who takes part in the Workshare program has to sign a contract to say that, yes, I want to participate in this. But it's very interesting. I remember the last time when the recession hit in 2008 and people had to Workshare, that people actually had the company had a good conversation with the staff to help them understand what it was, and for the good of the company, the life of the company, and the family's ability to continue. This was the best of both worlds. Like, better to be late than being laid off to have this Workshare. So if you're thinking that this is going to be a long-term strategy for companies because we're not going to be out of this in 2 or 3 days, then this applying for Workshare may be a way for people to survive. Any
Great.
other questions?
Yeah, so another question is, Hilda, can you speak more about the benefit of $900 biweekly? Who would qualify for that?
Okay, that is part of the emergency care benefit. And it's, yeah, I had to go through it quickly, so thank you for asking. This will apply for people who are not eligible for EI. And this can actually be parents who are staying home to take care of their children, but are not employees. They don't work anywhere. This is for you as a self proprietor who has no ability to make money, but you're staying at home. There are different criteria, but essentially it's to cover people who are not eligible for EI under normal circumstances. I've been trying to find out if it'll apply for a person who is an owner but doesn't have any COVID-19 reason for being unable to work. So that legislation is not clear enough to me, but if you're staying at home because you're caring for family, whether it's a child or an elderly person, or that you're not eligible for EI, this will be the way you can get EI benefits. So, and it's $900 biweekly for 15 weeks, which is a really good deal. So I encourage all of the business owners out there to look at it to make sure it applies to you. If it possibly applies, then go for it, apply, because it's money that's sitting there waiting for you if you want it. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
So we have another one. This person asks, we have 4 full-time employees and 8 contract employees. 2 of our employees, him or her included, are not entitled to EI. I will probably need to put my team on reduced hours. How will I go about doing this?
Very good. So 4 people that are they full-time or part-time? I didn't.
4 full-time employees.
Okay.
And 8 contract employees.
Okay. So if you put them on, there's a difference between temporary layoff, which means they don't work at all, and then part-time. So so the contractors are different. You don't necessarily have an obligation to them. In situations where you have a workforce that is your staff and not your staff, then you would probably stop the contractors first because they're not your employees. I presume by contractors, you mean people that are not your employees. If they're all your employees, that's a different scenario. But for the full-time employees, you may just have to say, I'm going to have to cut back your hours, but they would not be eligible for EI at that point. So that's a tough scenario for sure. I know that one of my clients had to shut down last Tuesday for 2 weeks. And she said it was the most heartbreaking thing. They're very closely aligned and they know. But in some ways that's good. But you may decide that 2 people are working full time and then 2 aren't, or you just might say spread the wealth. We're all in this together, and then have some people, like everybody works so many hours. I'm happy to jump on a call and have a dialogue with you too as well. I hope that helped.
So there's one more question. I'm not sure if Hilda, you already touched upon it, but it asks, how does the 10% top up work? I believe that might be
10%. Okay, so if you, if you are a you, if you qualify as a small to medium size company under, and I know I do, but I have to double check with my accountant. If you qualify, then you can make an application. That application will not occur until April 1st. You'll find information under the employee care benefit package, or the employee care benefit package. And when you go down, you're looking for the 10% wage subsidy. So what would happen then is, if you keep all your employees full-time, then my estimation is that, so say you pay a person $1,000 biweekly, then that's 10% would be $100. So you still will be paying your staff that $1,000. But when you go, if you get accepted to this plan, then when you go to remit your in your payroll tax, then $100 would be deducted. So you would not have to pay all of your uh, remittance tax, payroll tax. You would be able to deduct whatever the portion. So if you had, say, 3 employees and that deduction equaled $350, and you were paying $1,000 in your payroll tax, then you would only have to pay $650 that month. So again, this is a sweet deal because it doesn't sound like it's a loan that you have to pay back. So I encourage all people who have still, that are small to medium-sized employers that have staff, that you look in on April 1st and you double check what it is and apply. So I hope that helps. That's something I certainly will be doing.
Great. So another question we got from a great business. Our business is dependent on school instrumental music programs. With schools probably closing until September, we think we have to lay people off as there are no sales coming in to cover expenses beyond September. This makes us consider long-term layoffs and possible termination. They are a very small company with 5 employees, plus the owners. So they're having trouble with the payroll provider trying to do their ROE forms online due to large volume. And Hilda, your thoughts on this and their situation, please?
Wow, I feel for you. I mean, it's tough. It is so tough out there that all of us are thinking of some of the tough decisions that we really have to make. Sorry, I get kind of emotional. So sorry, I got to keep positive and help you guys. So I do invite you to connect with me doing that one-on-one. And right now my screen shows the calendar to book appointments with me, and we will send that to you later. But I think if the Workshare program makes sense, you might want to do that. I know that I have a client who also is in the after-school program, and all of their after-school programs were basically halted. And so she had to do the layoff, and it could go on for a while. So I encourage you to look at the layoff provisions. It will give your employees some peace of mind that they're getting up to 55% of their income. And when you share with them, you're probably very closely knit, share with them in all honesty what you need to do and how you need to support them, and that you've thought about that short term, midterm, and long term as you're making that decision, because it is a tough decision, and it's always about communicating effectively. When my husband and I had our company, we had to, during the 2008 economic downturn, we had to communicate with our staff. And the interesting thing about it is, when I asked them, how do you want me to communicate if we get close to having to close the office? And the person who had 2 10-month-old twins said, Hilda, I trust you. I know you will know the right time to tell me what you need to know. So there's going to be some understanding, empathy, and sympathy on both ends if you keep the lines of communication and have trust. So I'm hoping that, I'm hoping that you have a longer conversation with me, because it's not just an instant kind of reaction, but you will be thinking for the long term and how things will go. And I think the next week or two will give you more information. So you need to figure out when do I have to make a tough decision, and can I buy a bit more time? I encourage one of my clients to hold off laying off last Friday and waiting at least until this Monday, because I said, I think there'll be more information. So if you can hang on till you get more information. I don't know if I answered all of that question, but it is a tough decision that you need to make.
Yeah, so there's a follow-up question with that situation. 55% for how long?
Okay, so if they are 55%, if it's EI, the Workshare program is good for 35 weeks. Sorry, it's good for 35 weeks. If you do additional benefits, so if you have a benefit program like group benefits or RSP, and you continue to pay for that, then the government will allow you to go 52 weeks of doing that. So it is good for 35 weeks, I believe.
Great. So that's it for the questions. If anyone has the last urgent questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But there is one about how do we schedule a call with Hilda. So that's a great question. And again, like we mentioned earlier, we will be sending out the post-webinar emails to everyone with all of Hilda's contact information, as well as her Calendly link, right?
Yeah.
And so that is how we will want you to contact Hilda, and it'll be a free 30 minutes one-on-one consultation.
And if you can see the slide right now, you can do a screenshot or quickly capture it. I have my Calendly link right there. So if you need to do it right away, or you can wait till the email, it will be on there. But there it is, www.calendly.com/hd-people bright consulting.
Great. And if you have any questions that you would want to ask Hilda separately from this webinar, feel free to do so with the consultation as well, email, phone, anything.
I see that 16 people have stayed online, but again, we will continue to do this twice weekly with topics we feel that will resonate with you as HR professionals, managers, business owners. And I appreciate the time, and I hope that this has been helpful to you. And I continue to want to help people because we're going through this together and we need to do the best we can. If I help you, I'm helping your staff. So thank you for joining me today, and I appreciate the time that you've taken in your stressful, busy day, but stay positive. Look for the good stuff. Take a break from all of this stress, at least 10 minutes a day. Take care. Bye.